Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. John Henry Soto here with you, as always, where we enlighten, create, and inspire every morning here at 7 a.m. Central. Also, don't forget our Wellness Talk Sunday night show with George Batista. I'm also a co-host on there. We do a lot of stuff on wellness. He is a expert in supplements and the body, uh, licensed wellness coach, and we go through a lot of wonderful things there as well. So check us out there. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all doing well out there. It is Tuesday. It is June 9th, 2026, 7 a.m. here in Nashville, Tennessee. And we're going to just jump right in here. We got a lot to cover today. You know, I've been an artist since I can remember, probably even before that. um, And one of the things is, there's a lot of mistakes that I've made throughout my career where I feel that it's my responsibility to take those mistakes, wrap them up, show people what not to do by using those mistakes I've made, and then helping them get on the line and get on the path that would actually get them to where they want to go. So one of the biggest mistakes that independent artists make is really believing that talent alone will carry them to success. This is a big misconception. I talked about this with someone yesterday. Talent is important, but we need, the entertainment industry is filled with talented people. What often separates those who move forward from those who don't is consistency, professionalism, and a willingness to treat their art like a business. And I was having this conversation yesterday with a young lady who's an actress, and now she's a filmmaker, and she's working on her first film. And it was very exciting to kind of see her light up and talking about the plans and giving her some direction and some suggestions, and seeing her that she's now part of the team. She's a filmmaker now. She smiles. She goes, "Yeah, I'm a filmmaker." And I thought it was really, really sweet. Um, but you need to treat it like a business, and you need to kind of say to yourself, I'm going to be writing at this, I'm going to put, Monday, like I told her, I said, okay, Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday mornings, I'm going to get up early. I'm going to do some things. I'm going to get myself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and I'm going to sit down. I'm going to write till noon. And then at noon, I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to go do my life. And that's how I'm going to fit in the writing, and I'm going to be very consistent on that. And there's a lot of talented people out there, but this is the part that they're missing, because the talent alone is not going to get you there. A lot of people here, I mean, this is Nashville, there's a lot of talent, but developing that talent, developing the skill, getting the skill set is a different thing. Talent people are born with. Skill, they develop that talent into something that gives them the proficiency of using that talent in a way that actually can be marketable and can be appreciated by the masses, right? Many artists spend years perfecting their craft while neglecting the relationship, marketing, and planning needed, and the planning needed to build a lasting career. So if they have the talent, then they put that skill into it. And there's another piece now, it's relationships, and now we have, social media, and now there's AI, and there's all these tools that we can utilize in order to do that, to keep the career moving forward, right? Um, Another common mistake is waiting for someone else to create opportunities. This is something that I think a lot of artists fall into. And it was back in the day, 100 years ago, it was very different. You needed agents, and you couldn't just go out and shoot a film, because film was very, very expensive. It was very expensive to process a film and to have a big film camera and to try to find the stock. You sometimes people leftover stock from other films. This is what filmmakers would do: gather up as much leftover stuff that they would get, that they would give them, and then they would try to make a film with that. Then you got to process it, which costs, can cost a lot of money to process the film. And then there's an editing machine, the big editing machines that you have to kind of rent. Those things are, it's no longer the case, right? We all know that, we've all heard this a million times, right? You can make a movie with your phone. It is true. You can make a film with your phone. I mean, that is unbelievable, right? Um, but artists often, they hope that a manager, a label, a producer, an industry executive will discover them and change their lives. While this has happened, and it probably still happens all the time, it is very, very rare. It is not a common thing where people just suddenly, they jump in and they get discovered, just by sitting at a restaurant and just looking pretty, that a manager is going to come in and say, "Hey, you're the one." Got some friends over here. Thank you very much. Good morning. I'm on the show here, so tune in or just listen in, and I'll answer your comments in a little bit. Thank you very much. So the key thing is, um, while you're building a career and while you're actually out there on this path, you have to understand that you have the power now to create your own projects on your own. You don't always need to rely on a company or on a manager or anything else, or even a job, to do the work. If you have an idea, if you have an idea, there's your film. If you have a film idea, write it down, start working on it. I'm going to go over ways to do that as well. At the end, I'm going to give you 5 things that you can do, um, 5 things artists can do to better navigate the industry. So we're going to go over those at the end here. Um, but the important thing is that, you know those opportunities do exist. Where somebody just discovers you. Most successful independent artists create momentum on their own first. This is fairly new, I would say. In the 90s, we had some filmmakers that were doing it on their own, people like Spike Lee and Quentin Tarantino, John, I can't remember his last name. There's a lot of guys now that were those guys that were doing it, right? Steven Smith, I think. Um, and they were doing it on their own by finding footage, or finding, I should say, finding film, putting those projects together, putting their passion projects together, and then selling them, developing them. They were doing it. But it was very few guys doing that at the time because it was so expensive and it just took a lot of effort. And sometimes people just didn't have that effort, right? Or they didn't have that in them. These guys were special humans, right? So really, what you can do now is so incredible to compare to what you can do before. You have film now. You have cell phones that have pretty powerful cameras. They have even apps that you can download. I used an app from Black Magic. It's free. You download it on your phone. It's Black Magic. It makes things look very cinematic. I did a little test film with it called Alone. It's on YouTube. You can look at it. It was just me literally just making eggs. But I did it in a cinematic way. And I tell you, it actually worked out. It looked pretty good for not, I don't think you can make it into a big screen film. I think you need a little bit more. You need, some more features and stuff. But I wouldn't even say that. I bet you probably can do it. I mean, I put this together in my in my kitchen and just in my house, messing around here. And it took me a few hours to just do it, and I had no dialogue. I was just really interested in more camera movement and camera angles, and see what the lighting on this little app is. And it's a really good camera to put together your test film, what you want your film to look like. If you go out, set it up, you get the shot that you want, and then you can come in and bring, a better, if you rent a camera or anything like that. But it was a really good thing. And if you want to just shoot your film on it, that's what you can do. You can put it on YouTube like I did. It's a little YouTube, like I don't know how long it was, 5 minutes or something. And you put it on YouTube. So The opportunities are there. Okay, it's Black Magic. That's the name of the app, by the way. Um, so they perform a lot of artists. They created the momentum on their own, right? They perform regularly if they're musicians. They build an audience. They engage with fans, collaborate with others, stay active in their communities. The more visible and involved an artist becomes, the more opportunities tend to appear. This is very, very true. I do this show Monday through Fridays. I do another show on Sunday nights. Um, and I can't tell you how many people I've met just from doing this, just from being here and meeting people and engaging with people. It's been an incredible ride. Now, many artists also underestimate the value of networking and building genuine relationships. Man, networking, I've told this story before. David Foster, the famous musical producer, Kenny Loggins, Whitney Houston. I mean, the list goes on and on. Those are just two of the names that just came to mind. But he worked with so many amazing artists. But he was speaking somewhere, and he asked the audience, "What do you think is the most important thing that you need to make it, to be successful?" And the audience, the college kids, they were saying, "Well, perseverance, consistency, he said, you know what, those are all right. Those are all right. But the most important one that you need is networking, because you can be the most talented human on earth. And if nobody sees it, if nobody's there to actually see the talent, it doesn't matter, right? So networking is very, very important, and it's genuine relationships, right? Not just meeting, shaking somebody's hand and walking away. I'm talking about an actual relationship, a Zoom meeting with someone, a cup of coffee that you sit down and you talk to somebody, a genuine relationship that you build with someone, right? The entertainment industry is built on trust and connections. Every showcase, writers round, event, industry event, and community gathering is an opportunity to meet people who may become future collaborators, mentors, or supporters. The artists who consistently show up, support others, and contribute to the creative community often find themselves opening doors that would never have appeared otherwise. Supporting others is a big one. That is a very, very important one. So, when you're building a sustainable career, it takes patience, right? But it can also be moved forward fairly quickly if you don't just think that um, waiting for something to happen. Start the process on your own. Start writing that film. Take an hour a week if that's all you have, and sit down for 1 hour. Tell your family, listen, I'm going to just sit down. I'm going to do something. I just need 1 hour. Please give me 1 hour just for me to do this. And you sit down and you really attack it at that 1 hour. And then you try to find more time to put into it. But even if you have that 1 hour, at least you're moving the needle forward, you know, on something that you're passionate about. Very, very important to do that. Overnight success stories are rare, but steady progress is available to anyone willing to put in the work. The artists who succeed long term are usually the ones who keep learning, adapting, and growing. They understand that every performance, every connection, every song, every film, every conversation is another step towards building something meaningful that can last for years rather than months. This is very, very important. If, especially, if you're sitting there thinking, oh, I'm struggling, or I don't have the time, or I don't have the patience, that to me is very, very uh, uh, indicative of the fact that you're not looking at what you can do. What can you do? Yes, you may not be able to go out on auditions. Yes, you may not be able to sit down and write for 5 hours a day, but what can you do? Because something can always be done about it. And that is the main learning uh, lesson that I'm trying to give you today, is that something can be done about it 100%. And if you're sitting out there and you're talented, there's so many talented people out there putting in the work and building that skill, and then building that network and creating a project for yourself. Those things highly important. And I get a message here. Having that time makes a difference. Yes, absolutely. You must have that time. It's one of those things where it's not necessarily, um, like somebody says you should do the same thing for poetry. Yes, that would definitely work for poetry, 100%. Art is art, right? If you're a singer, a dancer, an actress, a filmmaker, a writer, a painter, a poet, all those things they take a creative process. They take the time to sit down and have that. You have to invest of yourself in the creation of it. It's just nothing you can do about that. You have to do that. So all of it, anything that takes you as a spiritual being creating something, that makes you the artist. That makes you an artist, and that means that you can actually navigate through it, especially doing these things that I'm talking about today. So here we go. Here are 5 things artists can do better to better here's I'll read that again. Here's 5 things artists can do to better navigate the industry. Number 1, and I talked about this already this morning, treat your art like a business. Keep track of your goals, your finances, branding, and marketing just as serious as you would work on your craft. Do it seriously. Get a notebook. I always have, and I show this thing all the time here. I always have my book. This is my workbook. Um, I have my notes here. I have always treat it like it is a business, and you pay yourself. You are your employee. You are your supervisor. You are the guidance. You are the foundation. You are the business, but treat it that way. So if you say you're going to be there Saturday morning, I'm going to get up early and I'm going to spend 3 hours writing. Who should show up? Who's going to call you to show up for work? If you're not making a dime on that morning, but it's something that you're passionate about, you need to get up. You need to treat it like you need to show up for work. And you can always communicate to those in your environment and letting them know, listen, I'm doing this now. I'm working on my art. I'm working on my craft. If you want to write a film, I've done 10 films. If you want to write a film, you can't, and I have a family, you can't just sit and expect and just sit whenever you want and start writing, because there's responsibility. Things come up. People are going to come at you. People are going to start asking you questions. They're not going to understand how serious you are about what you're doing. So communicating to them is a very key thing. That's part of you treating it like a business. Like if you're in a company, in an office, if you're sitting in an office in a meeting at work, is somebody going to come, is your family going to come to the door? Hey, excuse me, can you do something? No, you're in a meeting, you're at work, right? Well, that same space should be created for your art. And that's what you need to do in the home. This is why I'm getting a planner. I write a lot. I'm building consistency. Good, good. This is what you do. And this is Raylo, who's here, a friend of mine. All right. So, number 2, build real relationships. I talked about this as well, right? Attend industry events, writers' rounds, showcases, networking functions. Focus on genuine connections, not just collecting contacts. Oh my gosh, this is such a big thing because I used to fall into this trap all the time. I would think, oh, I met that person over there, but did you really meet that person? Oh yeah, I got their number. But do you really have a relationship there? Is that a real connection? You know, and 99% of the time for me, it was not. It was not. When you get involved in a real conversation with someone where it's a meaningful one, and if they offer you their number, if you ask them for their number or you connect for them, that's you asking. But if they say, hey, let's connect on social media, or let's connect on here, or let's grab a cup of coffee, you're building a real relationship there. And how do you do that? Well, you have to bring something to the table. This is why building your own work and your own projects really, really helps, because now you can say, yeah, I've shot my first film. or I have 10 films under my belt, and I do this morning show, and this is for me anyway. I've interviewed rock and roll legends here. I've interviewed award-winning filmmakers, people in business. This is what I do. So that opens the doors a little bit where people are like, oh, this guy is doing something. I want to have a connection with him. So I build my network like that. And, but how did I do that? Well, I had to start first by just taking it seriously, like a business. No money coming in, right? At the beginning, nothing. But you sit down and it's a business because this is what you're building. Businesses always start with an idea, right? It's always an idea first, and then someone who takes the next step on that idea and then continues to take those steps. Businesses don't just start and then suddenly start making money in our, Fortune 500 companies, right? You have to, it comes with an idea and then building on that idea. And that idea can take you a year. Give yourself the time. But if you're consistent on it, you will be so more far ahead. But you have to build those relationships. Okay, build those relationships. You can join certain things that I've, for film right now, I'm talking about film, but for music as well. You can find a lot of networking events that you can go to. Some of them you have to pay for $10, $20. Some of them are at restaurants where you just pay for your dinner, or if you don't want to eat, you don't pay for anything. You get a glass of water and just sit down and listen. And some of them, are have like major casting people if you're an actor. And you can, and those sometimes are really worth it. If you have something that you bring to the table that you feel confident about, it's worth it to pay it. Number three, create consistent content. So we have all these platforms right now, right? So try to make something every single day, whether it's a little dance video like Raylo, and maybe you can do one of your poetry. Maybe you can do one of your poems on the video. You can dance. I always like to see that part. That's always my favorite. The dancing is always great. Do something consistent that gets people to know your personality and get to know who you are and what you do. Tell your story and be consistent. And don't think that when you're creating content, you say, oh, I'm going to tell this story. And then next week you think of the story again. You go, oh yeah, but I already told that story last week. No, tell it again. Did everyone see your story, hear your story? Maybe one person would have heard your story already. And just find ways to tell your story in interesting ways. Build it up, write it down, memorize it, get a narrative of what you say. Like when people ask me, like, I always say I'm basically the same thing. I was born and raised in the South Bronx. I played music. I had a band. I have the same thing that I always say. I started a band. I recorded 3 albums. Blah, 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 blah. It's the same thing, and within that little overall narrative, I have little stories that I can pull out, that I can tell about, growing up in the Bronx, or starting my first band, or writing my first song, writing my first film. I have little stories where I can build, where I can that I've built to tell those things. So all that is content, right? So you need content. You need to show people who you are. Don't give so much of your personal life. You don't have to go into it if you're having a rough relationship wise, for instance. If you're having tough time in a relationship, you probably don't want to put that out there and put your dirty laundry out on the internet. You want to keep things positive and talk about the things that you're working on and things that you're passionate about. Read a poem, read books, read articles that you're passionate about. There's so much content out there, but be consistent. You have to create it. So share your journey, performances, behind the scene moments, and creative process regularly to stay connected with your audience. Number four, look for ways to collaborate. Find people that you can ask. You go, hey, I'm working on this thing. I'd love to sit down with you, and maybe we can write a song together. Or maybe we can come up with a screenplay. I have a meeting next Monday, actually, with a gentleman, a young actor here in Nashville, for something that I wrote. And I sent it to him. He's going to read it. If he likes it, we might start the process of putting that together. and it's a process. But the first step has to be taken, right? So I'm very excited about that. We'll see what happens. Uh, they'll be out today. Oh, good. I'm working on two videos, one on poetry and one on dancing. Love it. I'm gonna be watching those. The dancing. Sorry. Still true. I wrote something about food and kitchen products. I love it. I'm reading Percy's right now. I love it. Thank you very much. She says I am funny. I try to be. Sometimes I am. Sometimes I is not. Depends on who you ask. So look for ways to collaborate. Partner with other artists, filmmakers, podcasters, venues, organizations. Collaboration often creates opportunities that would be difficult to achieve alone. So look for ways to collaborate. Find people that you meet. You say, hey, maybe we could sit down and come up with something. And always go into it that it may not work. And then go into it, this may work. Don't have a must have on needing it to be the thing. It may not be the thing, but go into it with the highest hopes that it's going to be the thing. And then be honest and both of you can have conversations and be like, you know what? It's really not working. I don't think this is going to work. And that's fine. You move on. Don't linger and don't hold on to it and don't stay connected because it makes things just much harder when you get more involved and it doesn't work. Pull the band-aid out quick and just say, okay, it's over. But if you feel something, you're like, wow, this is a really good idea. Dive in. Say, hey, you want to get more serious about this? Yes, let's do it. And let's treat it like a business. Let's meet on once a week here. And we sit down for like 3 hours and just work on this. That's exciting when that happens. Number 5, and the last one, keep learning and adapting. The industry is changing all the time. You got to stay informed about new platforms, marketing strategies, technology, and trends while continuing to improve your craft. This industry, especially now with AI, every 10 seconds I'm hit in the face with a brand new AI tool that can do something, blah, 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 right? Find the ones that work for you if you're going to use AI and start using them. I think AI is a wonderful tool to help speed the process up on some of the things that you're working on. The creativity, the initial creativity has to come from you, not from AI. People who are writing songs or plays or making films just prompting a machine, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it'll be its own genre at some point. AI prompted films and they'll get their own awards, and then there'll be human films, right? But the creativity comes from the person themselves. But the tools can be used. Like you have a script and you want to clean up the grammar, right? Because maybe the grammar is not, or you want to clean up the grammar of one character who needs to speak proper all the time. Well, AI can do that, and that's a wonderful, wonderful tool to be able to use that. Just remember that a career is rarely built from one big break. More often, it's built from hundreds of small steps taken consistently over time. That's an incredibly valuable thing to understand that, you know, people say, oh, I've been at this for a year. And I'm like, what? You've been at this for a year? What are you, nuts? You haven't even started, bro. Some people, after 4 months of doing something, they give up. 4 months. No, you got to be in it. You got to be in it. You got to put no time. Just do it. If you love it. First of all, if you love it, you should just be doing it anyway, right? What else are you doing? We're alive now, right? We're not waiting to be born. We're alive. There's oxygen in our lungs right this second, right now. You're taking deep breath. Let's do it together. Right? That was an actual live breath that we all took together. We're all breathing now. We're all alive now. So it's important to know that we've begun. There's no time to wait. Today is the day. You start today. And consistency over time builds careers. If you're consistent, you're building relationships, you're doing all the things that we talked about here on these 5 steps, you will be successful if you're consistent and you don't put barriers in your way. I can't because of that. I can't because of that. Think of how you can because of that. Okay, that's in my way, but I know I can because I can overcome it this way. See, there are ways you can do it. You have to just look at different. It's a different viewpoint. You have to, it's a different mindset, a different viewpoint of looking at problems in front of you. Not, oh, there's a problem, I need to stop. No, there's a problem. How do I get around it, under it, over it, or smash through it? That's the way you should look at every single problem. And that's the biggest help that I can give today is just that. Whatever you run into, just know that there's always a solution there. All right, friends, I want to thank you so much for tuning in this morning. I appreciate you all very much. I will be back tomorrow morning for another conversation. Tomorrow morning, we are going to be talking about, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you a little insight. Okay, so I have an artist. I have one artist. Her name is Isis Christopher. She's a wonderful singer. I'm going to talk about her. We're going to talk about the developing of what we've been doing, developing her, some of the stuff that we're working on that we just talked about here today, how I'm applying that to her career and to the new band that we put together. I'm going to talk about them as well. It's going to be a very exciting show. I've never done anything like this, but as I'm doing these episodes now, started yesterday, I'm talking about the journey that I'm on JHS Talent Management and everything else that comes with it. And we're gonna have a good time on that. All right, friends. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day out there. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. God bless you all. And as always, peace.